Southampton 2, Liverpool 3, and the gap at the top is 8 points. Mark Donaldson, Miguel, Echegaray, and the former Liverpool player and supporter Stevie Nicol. Stevie, were you able to enjoy that, or was that a watch from behind the couch in some parts from St Mary's?
I was enjoying it up until the penalty, and then it became a battle of we can't drop points against this mob. I mean, it turned out okay in the end, but yeah, there was a spell, no question, when are we really going to make a mess of this? You know, the opportunity to go 8 points clear of Manchester City, and we're going to blow it. That was a reality at one stage, certainly at 2-1. It was all about, can we get a point? Never mind, can we get 3? But fortunately, you know, when you're playing against a team like Southampton, they are where they are for a reason. And you talk about masters of your own destruction, quite frankly. I mean, you can put a lot of it down to Liverpool putting pressure on them, but it's all about mistakes, particularly for me, Southampton's back line. That gifted Liverpool 3 goals. Now, Liverpool did have some shots. McCarthy did have some saves to make. They did have some half chances. Well, they had a lot of half chances. But the actual 3 goals, I mean, you can chalk them down to just horrendous defending from Southampton.
We'll get to the individual goals in a second, but I have to say, just before the hour mark, LME, we were looking out the stat. When was the last time the team at the bottom beat the team at the top? The answer is 2011, when Wolves beat Manchester United. And at that stage, as Stevie said, Liverpool might have taken a point, but they got all 3. So let's take a look at the opening goal. What did you make of the opening goal in the 30th minute, when Southampton did what they do quite a lot, but they don't do it very well? Why do they keep doing it?
I don't know. And Stevie's correct here. The masters of their own destruction, self-inflicted wound. Look, bottom line is this. I understand that Russell Martin wants to work from the back and build up. But here's the issue. Sometimes you really have to understand that the most eloquent solution to try and get out of a situation, especially against the league leaders, is to just be more simple. And not only was this a mistake, this was a colossal mistake. What a horrific decision by the goalkeeper to just send it down the middle, knowing that Liverpool is right there on your throat. Now, I'm not saying that it's a solitary situation, because I could also talk about other goalkeepers that have done this. But as you mentioned, Andy, they continuously want to do this. And also, it was 0-0 at that point. You're really just trying to keep things simple. It was a horrible way to concede the first goal. And Dominic Szoboszlai, obviously, Christmas came early for him, and it was a good finish. But Liverpool leads 1-0, and a terrible mistake. You cannot do that in the Premier League. You can't do that on Sunday football, let alone the Premier League. It's just horrible.
Can I just jump in here and say that,
of course,
what's even more ridiculous is that you've got a 6'7" centre forward. Are you telling me that you can't drop the ball into a 6'7" centre forward? And even if it's not the best of balls, the chances are he's going to get a flick on it, or he's going to get a decent challenge, and then you can fight for the second ball. I mean, it's absolute madness. Absolute madness.
Yeah. That's the 7th time, Stevie, that they have conceded directly from having the ball through their own individual errors. Now, as LME said, you're not getting away with that in the Premier League. They got away with it more in the Championship, because teams aren't as good there. That's why they're in the Championship. Most of the teams that have come up, and their managers who've said, we're just going to do what got us here, they go back down. So they're not going to learn now, are they? It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. This is the way they are, and if they go down because of that, then so be it. There's still time to change. Do you think they will?
No. I mean, he changed the second half. They absolutely didn't do it in the second half. The problem is, this isn't the first time that they've shot themselves in the foot in the first half, got themselves in trouble, and then changed. You know, you just can't keep doing the same thing and expect it to change. No. Because right up until now, we're nearly at Christmas, it isn't working for them. But they continue to try and do it from the start of the game. They get themselves in trouble, and then they stop doing it. I mean, it seems too obvious to us, but you know what? If the manager is going to be stubborn about it, then keep doing it, and then eventually you'll lose your job just because you're being stubborn.
Maybe they'll get the managerial job at Bayern Munich, MD. I don't know. Like, that's what happened.
Oh, the way
that
they're playing. So Liverpool they score goals, right? And they've won this game by 3-2. They've scored one more goal than the opposition. But do they have the defense that's capable of winning this title? Well, we'll see is the answer, because if you can always score one more than you concede. But it becomes difficult, Steve. It becomes difficult when you've got to score 3 because you concede 2. What did you make of the equalising goal that started with Virgil van Dijk trying to play out from the back and dribble and getting dispossessed, and then Robertson adjudged to have conceded a foul inside the box on the line when it seemed there was evidence to suggest that challenge was outside the box?
So there's a couple of ways to look at this. Now, the 2 goals in isolation it's poor defending. You know, yes, Virgil van Dijk loses the ball on the halfway line, but there's still a lot of time and a lot of ground to make up, and there's players that actually got back and were close to dribbling. The problem is that Robertson's challenge is a poor challenge. It's completely mistimed. He doesn't need to make a challenge. All he's got to do is stay in front of it and stay on his feet. Instead, he gambles. Dribbling makes him just have a little dabble, and in the end, it's a clear foul. Now, we can argue all day whether it's a penalty or not. Personally, I don't think it is. I think the PGMOL, whoever they're called, saying that it's inconclusive. I'm sorry. We're all sitting watching it. It's the challenge is outside the box, but the fact is it's a poor challenge. And the second goal is absolute schoolboy defending. You know, you've got a ball on the left-hand side, Liverpool's left-hand side. It's not closed down properly. It's not closed down well enough. You got Bradley who's gone over as a backup. The ball switched. You've then got 3 players all running towards the ball. Nobody's shown any sort of composure and having a look around, because when you've already got 2 chasing the second ball, why is another one joining in? So the 3 of them are completely played out the game, and then it's a nice pass across and the ball's in the back of the net. So it is defending with absolutely no composure in it whatsoever. However, I will say that I don't think it's a coincidence that it's after the international break. Liverpool lost the game at home against Forest after the international break, and it was poor defending then. And since then, they've defended well. And before that, they defended well. Again, we're talking about coming back from an international break. Players are not quite as sharp as they normally would be. Well, the travelling, the games. So maybe that's a little piece of an excuse for Liverpool. But the truth of the matter is, the two goals were absolutely avoidable. Absolutely no question.
LME, I'm all for transparency and explaining why decisions were made. But the commentary that we got, the world feed, commentator was Jim Proudfoot, and he was listening to the VAR output. So his initial assessment was as follows. The initial contact was outside the box. And while that happened, there was no further evidence to suggest that the contact stopped before the pair of them got to the line. You're like, hold on here, this isn't a continuation foul. And then, as Stevie said, PGMOL sent a tweet out. The referee's call of penalty for the challenge by Robertson on dribbling is checked and confirmed by VAR, who deemed there was no conclusive evidence that the contact occurred outside of the penalty area, when at least 2 of the angles suggested and clearly showed that it did. So as much as transparency is great, you've kind of got to get your story right, because those 2 don't add up.
Well, I mean, we've been here before, and I always talk about this is the biggest Achilles heel of VAR. We overcomplicate things here. It's starting to be like, you know, Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting and that blackboard trying to like it's very simple here. The foul was outside of the box. In fact, you just said it yourself in that description. The problem becomes even more annoying when that becomes the issue, where the referee makes the decision, and even though VAR's taken a look and they can see that the initial foul was outside the box, then they say, well, we can't really overturn it because there's not enough evidence and the referee already made the call. It was outside the box. It's not. But I think I'm with Stevie here. The issue here, let's focus more on the fact that Andy Robertson made a horrible decision. All you got to do is just stand your ground. I will say, though, specifically on that second goal as well, we need to just a few seconds for Tyler Dibbling. What a tremendous talent this kid is. 18 years old, and he played his heart out. And there's no doubt in my mind that in the future he will get that England call-up. He's gone up through every single youth rank. He was magnificent today. But in terms of that penalty, it wasn't a penalty. It was outside the box and overcomplicated things. And Liverpool, I guess Arne Slot will be saying, well, at least we got the 3 points. But I don't think that it's going to be one of these situations where Liverpool is going to say, look, what a great game. We got 3 points. Let's go back to Liverpool. Because to Stevie's point, after the international break, when Alexis McAllister had to play Peru and he was absolutely killed physically, Lucho Diaz as well, Darwin Nunez, there was definitely a sort of hangover of what they did over the international break. So I think Arne Slot would just be like, thank God we got the 3 points because we can do so much better than this.
This is the narrative. We're going through it chronologically with the incidents. The narrative is good teams find a way. They might not have been at their best. They've defended better this season, but they got themselves back on level terms. And Gravenberch with a brilliant through ball. Mohamed Salah taking it first time. Stevie, Alex McCarthy didn't have a great game today. Came and flapped at a couple of crosses. Came out for this one, got nowhere near it. But just when you think, oh, Mohamed Salah's been pretty quiet today, hasn't been involved in that much, he could have had a hat-trick. He gets two, one from the spot, which ultimately proves to be the winner. But is this more about Gravenberch's through ball or Salah's finish? Because it was a super goal.
I'm sorry, this is about the goalkeeper. I mean, the goalkeeper's absolutely in no man's land. And Mo Salah, I'm not even certain that Mo Salah is actually shooting. I'm not. In my brain, I'm thinking Mo Salah's maybe try to control this thing because it's a long ball. It's come down from the mountaintop, and the goalkeeper's completely in the wrong position. So yeah, it's a decent ball. It's a ball in behind it. When you've got Salah, who's smart. I mean, how many times you see Salah running offside? His timing of his runs is superb. And I think Nunez needs to have a word with him and have a chat with him and figure out how to do it. But the timing of the run's fantastic. Yes, it's a decent ball from Gravenberch, but the goalkeeper's an absolute shocker. I mean, let's be quite frank about it. But to your point about Salah, I mean, that's what he does. You know, he stands on it, he loses it, he seems as though he's not in the game, and then all of a sudden, guess what? He's either assisting or he's sticking the ball in the back of the net.
Just a
he
ridiculous
hit the post as well, and he's fantastic. And out of contract at the end of the season, if ever you needed a season like this from Mohamed Salah to basically say, look, no matter what, he has to stay. Pay him what he's after. If he will be open to staying, then that's the deal that pretty much has to be done if he's playing the way that he's playing. You mentioned Darwin Nunez. I mean, he's played it behind Luis Diaz. It's a tap-in if he gets the ball right. But they did get the winning goal. Sugawara, what's he thinking, LME, with a handball?
I mean, where did we begin, right? Like, you cannot do this in the Premier League. He might as well have been trying to fly because his arm was so out. Like, you can't do that. You could not do that in that situation. And I don't have any pity for them because, again, you create a self-inflicted wound. I mean, I know that it's difficult in the situation to assess certain moments, but again, his arm was so far removed from a natural stance that you're clearly good. You're actually trying to give a penalty, and you cannot do that in the Premier League at all. And even though the keeper went the right way, that penalty by Salah, I mean, that was always going in. What a smash in the top left and 3 points. There you go. It's so wonderful to see somebody like Mohamed Salah, you know, like you mentioned, he can be quiet for moments and fragments of the game, maybe even the majority of it, and in a flash, he can punish you. So Southampton, once again, a self-inflicted wound.
Stevie, just to end this one on Liverpool, because we do have and finally, there's been a managerial casualty, which we'll get to in a second. But when a team is 8 points clear in the Premier League after 12 games, you think to yourself, they must have been lights out. They must have been the best we've seen for years. If you were to give Liverpool a grade on how they have played this season to get the wins, and they've won everything apart from one game against Forest, would you give them an A+, or do you think there's room for improvement for Liverpool despite being 8 points clear after 12 games?
I think they've still got another gear. Well, let me put it that way. I think they've still got another gear. I think they've probably been 8 out of 10 consistently. And that means that there is a little bit of room for them to to be even better than they've been. Yeah, I don't get the feeling. You know, this is not what we're not watching the City of maybe 3 or 4 years ago when they were winning 4 and 5-0 every week and were just absolutely lights out, as you said. But this is a team that is. It's just it seems like it's an immovable object for anybody who comes up against it right now. It's not flashy. It's not exhilarating all the time, but it's businesslike. They always look in control. They always look as though they're going to do something, and they're just picking up points, merrily going along their way, where everybody else around them, who's supposed to be pushing them, are flailing around in the water, quite frankly. And so, yeah, I would suggest 8 out of 10.
Not a bad position to be in. We end today with a piece of news that broke in the last 10 minutes of the game between Southampton and Liverpool, and it's from the East Midlands. And Leicester have decided to change their manager. They've sacked Steve Cooper. Now, whether this was triggered by a very insipid display yesterday against Chelsea, where it was a case of, well, we'll defend as much as we can until we score, and then goodness knows what we'll do, or more of it the way they've played this season, only they can say. Is it the right decision, LME, to get rid of Steve Cooper?
I always find it really weird to make this decision right after the international break. I feel like if you were just down, if your decision from the exec board was just purely down to that loss against Chelsea, then again, I have question marks, because, you know, there was a week and a half where you could have made this decision in itself. Here's the situation. In so many years, this is one where we have talked about this before, where the separation between the newly promoted teams and everybody else has never been larger. So what are you trying to do now? So now that Cooper's gone, what are you doing? Are you doing a gamble, which is kind of like when Mauricio Pochettino first entered the Premier League and replaced Nigel Adkins in Southampton, and you're trying to be like, we're going to just create a new philosophy, and it paid off, right? Or are you trying to, let's stabilize the ship for the remainder of the season and maybe, you know, push on with an experienced manager? So do you go with a David Moyes, for example? Do you go for maybe even Graham Potter returning to the Premier League? So that's going to be key. The truth of the matter is that every newly promoted team this season has never had so much a higher mountain to climb, because it's no longer just about changing philosophy or stabilizing. The separation between you and everybody else is massive. So it's going to be really intriguing to me to see what manager comes in and whether you want to A, stabilize the ship, or B, completely revolutionize. And if we go down, we go down. So, you know, again, it's so weird to me that you make this call right after the international break. You want to do this decision, make it when you have a week and a half to at least plan something. But, you know, who am I? I don't own a club. So there you go.
Last one to Stevie Nicol about this. It's an attractive job for someone that's maybe looking for a way into the Premier League. But is it an attractive job for someone like a David Moyes or a Graham Potter, knowing fine well there's a good chance that Leicester might only be in the Premier League till May and get relegated, Stevie?
To answer your question, I don't think it is an attractive prospect. This is absolutely a job for not an unknown, but, you know, maybe somebody coming up who thinks they can get a hold of the reins and do something with it. I don't see this as a Davy Moyes or a Graham Potter. Absolutely not. I don't think either the two of them will want to touch it, because this team, regardless how good a coach you are absolutely going down. And I think the one thing that we shouldn't forget that maybe a lot of people don't think about, at a football club, yes, it's all about results on the field, but Leicester as a football club, when there's a feeling in the actual building amongst everybody that works there, that everybody's got the chin on the floor, that doesn't feel as though there's any way out, it's all doom and gloom. You know, that can be a big factor in getting rid of a manager. It's not always just about what's happening on the field. Listen, if Leicester had been playing some good football, losing by the odd goal, being unlucky, you know, all of these things will keep the manager his job. But also, everybody connected with the club still has that feeling of, we can still do this about them. I would suggest that at Leicester, not just on the field, but off the field and in the building itself. Everybody's got the chin on the floor, and there doesn't look any way out. And I think that's the only reason that you make such a change so quickly.
Can I make a suggestion, MD, on the new manager? And I agree with Stevie. I think maybe this is for somebody to prove themselves, and if they go down, whatever. Let's try and hit a few birds with one stone here. Why not give it to Emile Heskey? Why not give it to somebody that's had a history with the club, who, by the way, is also a manager of color who deserves an opportunity, you know, and maybe this is it. Maybe they fail and they go back to the championship, but they can say, if we fail, we're still giving you the keys to the kingdoms in order for you to really help us come together. I just think that there are so many good opportunities here for Leicester City to maybe do something that can inspire, because Stevie's right. They're not staying in the Premier League. It's not happening. So give it to somebody like that can maybe help you go together. And also you're creating a message here, because more black managers need an opportunity. I just think that somebody like that could maybe be a gamble, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to grow.
My thanks to LME and to Stevie. Liverpool win. They weren't at their best, but they got the job done. And they have quite the lead at the top of the Premier League. Bye for now.